Don't cross the boss, especially when the boss in question is madder than a shoebox full of rats. Vince McMahon is the capital city of nuts as Shitsville, and his spats with God, his preposterous 70-year-old granddad arms, and whatever the hell he's doing here, should make it pretty obvious that you don't want to PO this OAP CEO, because he might just take his vengeance to the next level. The crazy level. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and here are the 10 biggest Vince McMahon overreactions. Number 10, the grab heard round the world. The first and most recent entry to the list. As of recording, Titus O'Neil is currently suspended from the WWE for 60 days for grabbing Vince's arm at the end of an episode of Raw. The whole incident is really weird. Backstage, Vince is known for enjoying the odd grapple with his employees and used to literally hide from Kurt Angle in order to jump out and try and wrestle him to the ground. Vince is mad. But after Bryan's emotional retirement ceremony and while the post-Raw cameras were still rolling, surely that wasn't the best time to do some joshing, even if Titus O'Neil was only asking Vince to be chivalrous and let Steph walk first. The dumb decision from Titus to put his hands on the boss at a very emotionally loaded time places it low on the list, but when you consider that originally he was to be suspended for 90 days, and apparently before that Vince wanted to have him fired during Black History Month, then it's definitely a huge overreaction. Number 9, Lana. Oh, Lana, what happened to you? Around WrestleMania season 2015, the company were incredibly high on the ravishing Russian, prepping her to be the female face of WWE. She was over as hell with the crowd, and after she split from Rusev, WWE turned her face and started letting her cut loose. And by cut loose, we mean she got into a dead-end romantic quadrangle with Ziggler, Rusev, and Summer Bloody Ray. Despite the angle being less entertaining than a state funeral, the way it ended was just bizarre. See, Lana and Ruru were still seeing each other in real life, and when the two got engaged and Lana Instagrammed a picture of her ring, Vince apparently lost his mind. He cancelled the angle abruptly, put Lana back together with Rusev, and Lana's been in the doghouse ever since. I mean, has someone told Vince McMahon that wrestling's fake? He knows that, right? Number 8, the fine for Stone Cold. So it turns out when you run a company, you can just fine people, like a cop handing out a speeding ticket. And wouldn't you know it, some of Vince's fines have been chestnut bonkers over the years. One such fine was handed down in June 2002 when Steve Austin walked out of the company, refusing to job to Brock Lesnar. Now, that is a fairly terrible thing to do, and Stone Cold said as much in the years since, but that's not to say what happened next wasn't a shade over the line. Not only did Vince make almost the entirety of next week's Raw a collection of segments denouncing the rattlesnake, but he also tried to fine him $650,000. Austin managed to wheedle him down to $250,000 because, yeah, $250,000, much more reasonable. Number 7, firing Punk on his wedding day. From punishing one top star for walking out to another, when CM Punk quit WWE after the Royal Rumble 2014, citing creative frustration and a misdiagnosed staph infection, it left a huge hole in the company. He was originally suspended for the infraction and, according to Punk, he expected the company to call him back to work in a few months. They never did, and he was finally sent termination papers. What day did those papers arrive? They arrived on June 13th, which just so happened to be CM Punk's wedding day. Be a star. Vince has publicly apologized for this, claiming that it was a complete coincidence firing a man on what's supposed to be the happiest day of his life, but well, maybe we could believe that if Vince wasn't so famous for firing people at the worst possible time, such as number 6, firing Alberto Del Rio. Alberto since returned to the company, but he spent over a year away from it after he was unceremoniously fired in August 2014 for slapping a WWE employee. Well, what's wrong with that, right? Surely you can't go around slapping people you work with, unless of course they're Jack the Jobber. Well, it's not quite as simple as that. See, the man that Del Rio slapped was Cody Barbieri, a social media manager at the time, who had just made a racist joke, claiming that it was Alberto's job to bus his tray after eating, because Del Rio is Mexican, ha ha ha, yes, social media savvy on full display there. Del Rio got rightfully angry at this remark, and when he got a smirk instead of an apology, slapped the stank of Barbieri's face. Both men have since left the company, but Del Rio was fired almost 2 months before Barbieri, which goes against every anti-bullying, anti-racism campaign that Vince has ever spearheaded. Number 5, Batista's fine for blading. It's fine time again, and this one's a doozy. In 2008, WWE turned PG in a move that still rustles people's jimmies to this day. As part of the move, Vince imposed a ban on intentional blading, i.e. the practice of a wrestler cutting himself with a concealed blade to provoke blood flow. Not every wrestler was wild about the move, including Dave Boom Boom Batista, who went against the ban, getting colour in a cage match with Jericho a few months into the PG era. This was an isolated incident, and Batista wasn't suspended, but he was fined to the tune of $100,000 for one match. Batista has since said heard of the incident, I was just heartbroken. I literally think he sucked the life out of me that day. Yeah, well, you and every woman Vince has ever kissed on camera. Ugh. Number 4, the double booking controversy. This one's just petty. In 2009, the Pepsi Center in Denver got double booked. Monday Night Raw was contractually scheduled to be there, but the owner had also verbally agreed to book a basketball game between the Denver Nuggets and the LA Lakers and refused to budge. The Raw had to move, and it got moved to the Staples Centers in Los Angeles, and Vince gave Denver the finger live on air by booking a 10-man tag team match. The good guys, headed by Cena, wore Lakers jerseys and laid a beating on a team headed by Randy Orton, who just happened to be wearing the jerseys of the Denver Nuggets. That is Alex Petty. Number 3, the Huckster and the Nacho Man. Speaking of petty, in the mid-90s, WCW began engaging in a bold business strategy. Look at Vince's company, see who the most recognizable stars were, then offer them more money to work for WCW. They did it with Randy Savage, Gene Okerlund, Bobby Heenan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Bret Hart, but it began with the Hulkster. Now, Hogan had been out of the WWF for nearly a full year before he signed for the big bucks with Ted Turner, but that didn't stop Vince from firing shots back. He created a series of skits set in Billionaire Ted's Wrasslin Warroom depicting the Huckster, the Nacho Man, Scheme Gene, and of course Billionaire Ted himself. Though some saw the skits as light-hearted, they were actually pretty inflammatory, containing a lot of material that could be legally considered slanderous. Vince only packed it in when he was explicitly ordered to by the head of the USA Network, but not before Mad Vincent killed off all the characters. Number 2, the destruction of the Ultimate Warrior. Judging from how the Ultimate Warrior has been literally idolized by WWE in the form of a huge statue, it might come as a surprise that at one point, WWE loathed the man. Vince and co. hated him so much that in 2005, they released a DVD called The Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, where McMahon, Triple H, and a bunch of other notable WWE stars sounded off on the Warrior, running his reputation into the ground. I'm guessing you won't be able to find it on the WWE Network. See, Warrior had been fired for the company for apparently holding Vince hostage over money owed to him, rehired, fired again for no-showing events, before getting into legal trouble with the company over the trademark to his name. Considering that WWE eventually made amends with the Warrior and relaunched their financial partnership, this DVD has to be seen as a huge overreaction. Number 1, the Montreal Screwjob. Bret, didn't you know? Nobody puts Vinny in the corner. In 1997, the hitman Bret Hart was on his way out of the WWF and headed to WCW to pursue a much more lucrative contract and also a career-ending concussion from Goldberg. The problem was, Bret was champion at the time and was refusing to drop the strap to Shawn Michaels, a man he hated in real life in his home country of Canada. Bret had offered to drop the belt in the States, but at the height of the Monday Night Wars, Vince couldn't stomach the idea of his company's big belt being featured on Ted Turner's WCW, and so ordered Hart to be screwed out of the title live on pay-per-view at Survivor Series. HBK locked Hart in a sharpshooter, and despite Bret not tapping out, Vince ordered the bell rung and Michaels was declared winner. Of course, Vince, mad as ceramic pants, believed that that was the only course of action that he had, and infamously, Bret screwed Bret. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and you can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.